Academia is a scam. I haven't scripted this video, so these are my thoughts off the top of my head. I have an English PhD, but I prefer this if this was an informal context to share my thoughts. So basically, the reason academia is a scam is, first of all, like, there are more PhD graduates per job openings, like vastly more. Supervisors get paid a top up on their salary for each PhD student they take on. So you should be aware that they're making money out of your dreams, your aspirations, your hopes. The other reason is that you have a neoliberal takeover of universities, such that they're not really universities anymore. They're more like corporations wearing the mask of third level education. But neoliberal institutions, or I should say, neoliberal administrations, hate humanities departments. They don't like critical thinking. So like, there's an ideology and undercurrents running through neoliberal thought, which is to shut down the questioning of the system, and humanities tends to lead people to question the status quo. So another reason is also they prefer things that are measurable and quantifiable, and humanities does not provide that. So tangible or measurable information takes priority over that which is ephemeral, basically, and that's associated with literary research or whatnot. Now there is a problem with that, in the respect that, like, for example, about a month ago I read about nurses who were anti-vaxxers. That should tell you that courses that are purely focused on that which is pragmatic or practical without any kind of component of critical thinking, it will lead to graduates who don't question things or verify information or think about the information they're being presented with, and then they eat up bullshit. Okay, so to say that technical knowledge supersedes kind of the types of knowledge you would associate with the humanities is completely counterproductive. Okay, because you get people that are hopelessly naive about the world they live in. The STEM bros would be a case in point. Elon Musk will save us all. Yeah. But that's what they believe. And I would not discount that they are highly intelligent individuals, because they are. But they have naive perceptions, and that I would attribute to a lack of humanities education. But anyway, they're underfunded, these departments. And I think, what they're doing at the moment is they're constantly shifting the goalposts. Like, justify yourselves to us. But I think eventually they're just going to outright shut them down, because, the hostility and the passive aggressiveness is plain to see. And then the mask will come off at some point, and they'll say, you know what? We don't want humanities departments to exist. We just want to destroy them. And that's exactly what's going to happen. I think. I can't say with absolute certainty, like I kind of just have, but that's my prediction. So another problem with the humanities is a cultural one, and it relates to academics themselves. So a lot of academics in the humanities are egotists, and that's always been the case, but it breeds a very, very toxic culture. And what's happening is that they sort of pre-select for other people like themselves, and they have a lot of bullshit to justify it. They are kind of high on their own fecal matter. Let me explain that a little bit more, because it's quite an extreme statement, but it's the truth. For example, you might have an influential academic, and they have like a PhD student, and basically they might have a favorite PhD student, and they will plonk that person into a job. Now, there might be like hundreds or thousands of applicants for that job that would just be as good, if not better. But because that one student is their favorite, they get it, right? And they call this practice as well. Like, they like to keep things internal, so they call it molding, right? Now, I have another word for that, and it's called nepotism. That's what it is, right? It is nepotism, but because they're so full of their own shit, they like to think of it as molding. Right. Okay. Keep lying to yourselves, I would say, to those types of academics. But, there's a lot of them. For example, they all try to play up to this kind of, or not all of them, but like a good percentage of them play up to this archetype of like the quintessential academic, the guys that wear, or the girls that wear kind of jackets with the little patches, right? and they're so self-important and they live a life of the mind, right? And their research is significant, and they talk like this, and a lot of the words are kind of just flatulence coming out of their mouths, right? And it filters into journal publications as well, because basically, you know, the publications, they don't want research that's too political or has too much of a big effect. They want, articles about the importance of the gaffer line in the graphic novel, or the importance of Shakespeare's comma in the history plays, right? They don't want anything to do, any sort of commentary on neoliberalism or whatnot. And what they will do is they will basically say, oh, you're mixing, like, different fields, like you're bringing politics into literature, and ooh, how do you justify that? And I just say, like, okay, well, Edward Said basically did that. He drew upon political, historical, and philosophical concepts, and then he applied them to literature, right? And he went ahead and did it. And like firebrands like him are what we need. I think academia suffers from hyper cautiousness and a fear of making any kind of interesting statement, because you'll have an army of other academics that will say, but what about this and what about that? And oftentimes these whataboutisms relate to really, really trivial details. It gets really silly because, like, for example, they'll call into question, like, even the use of verbs, like, use the word imply. What does imply mean? Well, I don't know, maybe suggest, maybe like posit or something like that. I mean, I don't know, there's a dictionary. Why don't you go and look it up? You know what I mean? So this is what academia has devolved to. And it's primarily because of a kind of culture that preselects for people like themselves. And I've seen this happen before in college societies and internet forums, where a group of people will take over and they'll exclude everyone else because they create their own echo chamber. And then when those people leave that forum, they'll move on invariably to different forums or whatnot. The forum dies, or the society dies, because no one was willing to join it because they're put off by this group, right? That's kind of the same thing that's happening in academia, and the proof is in the pudding, because basically, like, you have like 3 to 5 years to get a job, and after 5 years, kaputski, right? And non-academic experience does not count. So if you like have experience in, say, a school, or maybe you went abroad and taught, or maybe you have like life experiences, that doesn't count apparently. And what that does, if you discount like different experiences in different work contexts, you just end up with this kind of monochromal environment, or monochronal, is it? I don't know. But you just create like this environment where it's mono. There's no diversity of thought. Okay, you just have this kind of legion of academics that are all the same, all cut from the same branch or the same tree, and that's really sad. Okay, because as I said, it's off-putting to people who don't fit into that and who could really contribute, and they won't go into academia, but then they're probably savvy not to, considering the circumstances. So I think that's one thing that's really going to sort of seal its own fate. I don't really see the humanities or academia really lasting in the form that we know it as, or used to know it as. It'd be more accurate to say. I don't see that lasting beyond another 10 years. I would say that universities are essentially exploitation rackets, because they charge excessively high fees for their courses. Like, I mean, in the United States it's mental, right? But even in the UK, like £9,000 for a course, like, get real. That's £9,000 a year. Like, what the hell? Because they're not supplying the value. And again, that ties back to kind of like, who are you selecting for these jobs? Because a lot of students complained about professors not even preparing lectures online during the COVID pandemic. Why do you think that is? Because the culture of academia, the work culture, pre-selects for egotists, and they're more concerned about their research than the students. Like, if you let's speculate you got somebody different who had like life experience in a different area, right? They probably prepare better lectures, and you have lots of cases of these kind of idiot lecturers who might be insulting their students with the microphone still on. There was an article about that, In Ireland that happens, and you have to wonder, like, what kind of clowns are running the show. So yeah, basically, I don't see how a university supplies value to its students. I mean, an awful lot of the information can be learned online on a computer, right? You don't necessarily need to go into a lecture hall. The only issue is that employers are complete asswipes, so they demand that certificate because they're a lot of people have this pecking order, hierarchical conception of the way things should work, and the certificate is like your tribal, ritualistic badge of honor. But you can learn just as well online, and the internet has come along in leaps and bounds to enable that to happen. So it's really rendered the university system kind of obsolete. Universities are kind of protectionist rackets as well. Like, you have websites like Sci-Hub where you can download academic articles for free. Now, the feds want to stamp that out. And of course they do, because knowledge should be protected. No, we shouldn't ever share knowledge. That's sarcasm. But basically, like, why do you think there's so much progress in the field of computer science and whatnot, like coding, new technological developments? Well, I would attribute some of that to GitHub, the free sharing of information, of code, right? But academia is the opposite of that. It's about putting that knowledge into an ivory tower, making it inaccessible to everyone. And that sucks. So that's basically academia in a nutshell. It's a cesspit, and it's a scam, and you don't need it, in my opinion, and I don't see it lasting anyway. I actually would like to see universities collapse. I think they don't deserve to exist in their current form. As I said, academia is a lie.